Hello, Kupo. I'm Professor Chronic, and today we're going to discuss Doctor Eggman and his appearance in one of Sonic's more interesting titles, Sonic Lost World. As you may recall, Lost World was a more experimental entry in the series, albeit with mixed results. As a part of this experimentation, though, Sega played around with the game's story by doing something rather unusual, having Sonic team up with his long-standing nemesis, Dr. Eggman, throughout the game. And it was surprisingly interesting. Don't get me wrong, Lost World's story has its fair share of problems, such as its one-dimensional and rather anticlimactic cast of villains. However, the game put the series' classic characters into new situations, showing us aspects of their personalities we haven't seen before. For example, Tails, the supportive, sarcastic best friend, was jealous and bitter about their team-up with Eggman because he took it that Sonic was doubting him. And Mr. Chuckles here, unlike Knuckles, actually experiences a bit of guilt from putting the world in danger, as well as loneliness as his friends and allies fall one by one. However, Dr. Eggman's development is particularly fascinating, as it turned all we knew about him upside down. Despite being the long-standing villain of the series, he was actually the most cooperative member of the group. He kept a professional demeanor at all times, was slow to retaliate at petty insults, and even acted as moral support for Sonic when Tails was abducted. What was even more intriguing was the fact that he was actually more tolerant to Sonic and Tails than they were to him, which is crazy. After all, they're the series' protagonist. You'd think that if anyone would put aside their grudges and personal feelings for the greater good, it would be the heroes, not the villain. This game took what was otherwise a typical video game bad guy and made him a team player, in turn making him one of the roundest characters in the Sonic franchise. And by round, I mean that in a literary sense, not round as in never mind, Kupo. Anyway, it was actually a fairly interesting take on the Sonic cast, and one of my favorite games in the series, until that ending. You know, where Eggman fakes his death, betrays Sonic, and then engages him in a boss fight so underwhelming and makes the Deadly Six look like Sans? Oh, and then Tails reveals that he could have reprogrammed Eggman's out-of-control machine all on his own, making the game's entire plot utterly trivial. Yeah, if you couldn't tell, I hate that ending. Good job on making the entire concept of your story completely meaningless, Sega. And in the span of 2 minutes, nonetheless. Here, have a cookie. Still, I couldn't help but think that, in addition to it being an abomination, something about Lost World's ending just seemed a little off. From what we gather, Eggman had planned to use Sonic as a distraction so he could get past the Z, access his machine, and then do typical bad guy shenanigans from there. There was one cutscene, however, that showed me that things weren't as simple as that. As players will recall, Tails experimented with parts of Eggman's broken Badniks and Q-Bot about midway through the story, seemingly to make a weapon to help combat the Deadly Six. However, due to the control the Six had over the Badniks, the attempt made Q-Bot aggressive. He would have attacked Tails had Eggman not pushed him out of the way. Now, this leads us to the following question. Why would Eggman risk his own neck for Tails' safety? It made sense at the time because they were working together as a team, but Eggman's betrayal at the end of the game makes his motivations unclear. It would have been one thing if it was Sonic. He needed the blue blood to combat the Deadly Six. But Tails? His specialty is brains, not broth, and that's something Eggman already has. If Eggman was just some big bad villain, then why would he save someone who is so trivial to his plans? Especially when he has such a bitter history with them. Eventually, I reached the following conclusion. What if Lost World's ending wasn't just a major letdown, but also put Dr. Eggman out of character? Now, don't misunderstand me. Eggman's hardly a good guy, and he's not going to be best buds with Sonic and pals anytime soon. That being said, if there was anything we learned about him from Lost World, it's that he works well with others. As previously stated, Eggman's the most cooperative member of the group, putting his distaste and bitterness aside for the sake of their common goal. But so what? Being cooperative hardly proves he lacks ulterior motives after all. If anything, you'd think that his demeanor is just part of his big grand plan to betray the hedgehog when the opportune moment arrives, right? Well, that would be the case, except for one thing. Dr. Eggman absolutely despises betrayal. Recall his relationship with the Deadly Six? In the earlier half of the story, they were forced to work as his slaves, gathering animals for his robots and hunting down his enemies. What's more is that the Doctor was extremely cruel to them, hurling insults like incompetent and foolish, and torturing them with that rare conch that causes them to experience excruciating pain. However, that all changes when Sonic gets rid of said conch, inadvertently setting the Zeddy free. And when this happens, Eggman's view of them changes drastically. Suddenly, they aren't just simply incompetent or foolish, but rebellious scum and swine. The things he says to them become darker than before. To quote the man himself, "I'll destroy everything you know and make you watch. As long as I can strangle a Zeti, my hands are fine. I'll get fat from eating your black carts." Okay then, Kupo. So what does this prove? Eggman's change in attitude should be expected, right? Well, yes, but not to this degree. I mean, come on, "I'll eat your black hearts"? That's not only one of the most disturbing lines in the game, but the entire Sonic series. I would go as far to say that's one of the most unsettling lines in gaming, period. But why does he act this malicious towards the Six? After all, he has a long-standing rivalry with Sonic, but he's never been this extreme with him. If anything, their interactions show that Eggman's just extremely annoyed by the Hedgehog, at least by comparison. So what gives? Why is it that Eggman has this strong hatred for the Deadly Six, characters who've only appeared in this singular game, that surpasses his hostilities for his own nemesis? Simple. The reason is, unlike Sonic, the Deadly Six were initially on his side. They certainly did not have equal standing in their relationship, but Eggman depended on them and trusted them to get the job done. But once freedom was in reach, Zeti turned on him. Suddenly, Eggman's actions start to make a little more sense. Why is he so extreme? Because he feels betrayed. Zeti was supposed to be the ones that finally helped him realize his goals for world domination, but instead they casted him aside to fulfill their own agenda. Now, let me ask you something. Would someone who clearly hates being stabbed in the back, so much so that they would lose control of themselves in a fit of rage, simply do the same things to others on a whim? Then again, my thesis that Eggman was out of character for the ending of Lost World relies on quite an assumption. That assumption, of course, being that it's the betrayal that's out of character, not the development Eggman receives throughout the game. There's little reason to doubt that the Doctor's actions seem a little conflicting, what with the saving of Tails and all. But that brings us to this question. Can we prove that Eggman's characterization is true to what's already been established in the series? Well, believe it or not, yes. Lost World may have been a rather irregular title in the series, but it wasn't the first time that we got a sense of how Eggman worked as a team member. Ladies and gentlemen, may I direct your attention to another title where the Wicked Doctor teamed up with hedgehogs rolling around at the speed of sound? Sonic Adventure 2. In the game's Dog Story, Eggman pairs up with Shadow and Rouge to collect the Chaos Emeralds. Because of this, we get to witness various interactions between these characters and, in turn, get a sense of how the Doctor interacts with others. Keeps the series together when discussing plans and predicaments with his teammates, just like in Lost World. And, although he's ultimately doing what Shadow wants him to, he steps up as a leader. What's even more, though, is it's made apparent that Eggman honestly trusts and cares for his team members. For starters, he addresses them by their actual name more than any of the other characters. And he never uses any crude nicknames for Shadow at any point in the entire game. This may seem trivial at first, but remember that Eggman constantly addresses others with petty insults and sarcasm. The fact that he treats his allies with respect is actually pretty significant. More important, though, is the responsibilities that Eggman trusts both of his companions with. Rouge, for example, asks for the password to the space colony, which Eggman gives to her without a second thought. And why does this matter, you ask? Because it's the password to the entire freaking space colony, Kupo. Having this knowledge gives Rouge access to a vast amount of sensitive information, yet Eggman believes in his teammate enough to trust that she won't stab him in the back. But then again, Rouge was a double agent, so his trust might have been a little misplaced. Okay, better example. When Sonic and friends storm the colony, Eggman orders Shadow to stay where he is while he takes care of the threat. Before he leaves, he utters one crucial line of dialogue. "If something happens to me, I'm counting on you to finish the job." Now, this isn't something a big bad supervillain would say to someone he plans to toss aside later. This is something someone says to someone they trust, someone they think of as their equal. But the most critical piece of evidence comes from the game's final moments, during which all the characters, heroes and villains alike, team up to face the unexpected catastrophe, just like in Lost World. And the key difference, though, is what the characters do after it's all said and done. We already know what happens in Lost World, but do you want to know what Eggman does at the end of Sonic Adventure 2? Absolutely nothing. No, seriously, he just gazes out the window with Tails and gets all sentimental. He doesn't sneak away to do nefarious deeds, he doesn't pull out a super duper mech of mehsomeness, and he doesn't launch Plan Z. He just enjoys the moment, then goes back to business as usual in the next game. Well, maybe not that usual. Regardless, let me ask you this. Why on earth would Eggman betray everyone in Lost World even though he did no such thing in Adventure 2? His behavior is comparable otherwise, but this doesn't match up with everything else, proving that it's the anomaly in his character. Now, I'm not trying to claim that Eggman's some kind of tragic, misunderstood character that's gonna have an epiphany one day and become everyone's best friend. That's just ridiculous. Eggman is, and probably always will be, some crazy dude who fights furballs to conquer the world. However, that doesn't necessarily mean he's a one-dimensional character. Taking a deeper look at his personality shows that he's a team player, that he respects his companions, and that he hates being betrayed himself. That's not the type of person who would betray others so easily. He'll always be Sonic's nemesis, but I don't think that alone means he'll sneak off to launch a surprise attack, if Adventure 2's any indication. But you know what? That's just my take on the character. But what's yours? Do you agree with me that Lost World's ending wasn't true to Dr. Eggman, or am I simply overthinking all this? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. Either way, thanks for watching, and subscribe if you want to see more content like this. See you next time, Kupo!